Hello, lovies. How are we? I am physically out of my tits today. It is April 6th, 2025, and we are here together on a Sunday for Sunday service, and we're going to get some testimony. Okay. Who is our testimony going to be from? That is the one and only Jennifer McCabe, as well as I'm sprinkling in clips here, babes, of Kerry Roberts to say exactly like the opposite of what Jen says here. Because the brain has been racked. The racked has been brained. The brain has been racked. Okay. I am on another planet. And also, I have clips of a couple of another witness, Sarah Levinson, which I had to put into the StreamYard. And we know that was a challenge for me. It took me, I don't even want to tell you how long, because that makes me look inept. Potentially like the Canton Police Department. Okay. Hi, Peggy. How are we? Oh, and Bonnie Fitzgibbon, we are here on our Lord's Day. I made it early stream, and then I went to church and I prayed. And I prayed for you, and I prayed for me, and I prayed for Officer John O'Keefe, and I prayed for Karen and her family and all of us because we need the prayers. Oh, and we have Sandra says, hello, beautiful. Peace be with you and also with you. So, again, babes, today is going to be, I've had some questions since the Canton Police Department audit. Okay. I was not thrilled with the yesterday performance of the auditors at the town performance. And that's what it was, a performance art. And there was a lot of comments and things that were said to the public that were minimizing of what has occurred in the town of Canton, not just since Sandra Birchmore, but in general. And I, just think about everybody in Canton, and you're in my heart, and I'm sorry that you're going through all of this, and I hope that there is an opportunity to rebuild with the police, and I want the police to feel safe and comfortable and think that they're doing a great job, and I want their residents to feel like they're safe and everything is on the up and up as well, because they deserve that. When you become a police officer, you put your life on the line and you say, I'm here to protect and serve, not just some, all. Okay? Okay. And Jay Coop says gaslighting is the word you're looking for. Thank you, Jay Coop. Oh, and Julie Kaylee says BP was up and I don't even live there. And that's the thing, right? Like, that's where it comes down to the nuts and bolts. The crux of the bullshit, if you will, is that it's affecting, or it impacts, all of the residents in Canton, which is in a larger subset of Norfolk County. And in a larger subset, it is Massachusetts and the United States. There are many towns like Canton. Okay? But when you see it under microscope, and then you see that you're saying things were wrong and then giving pats on the back to specific officers, I have questions, Like, let's keep it a buck, my guy, All right. Oh, and hello, Lulu Bell. I love your face. So today we are met with the one, the only, Ms. Jennifer McCabe. And she is going to walk us through. I'm going through her direct testimony today, babes. Okay. But we're going to compare and contrast. And there are this friggin' story that she gives that is eaten up Like, I don't even know what's something delicious and small that you can enjoy. Mini M&Ms. Haribo gummies, okay? It is eaten up like Haribo gummies on a Sunday afternoon. Shut up, that's my snack. And and Michael Proctor just is like, absolutely. The investigator may or may not have been Jen, okay? So we're going to start here. And then when we see fuckery afoot, raise your hand, okay? I'll raise mine too. And then I have several clips to just transcend you to another galaxy. Okay, I love you. I'll shut the fuck up. And let's get into it. This was day, I don't even know what, but I want you guys, if you don't subscribe, I just subscribed to the trial channel. It's called The Trial Channel. And they took every single witness in Commonwealth v. Karen Reed and like took away all the sidebars. Praise Jesus. Okay. I thank this creator and I just appreciate them. So go subscribe to them and watch everything without feeling as though you might need to go on a grippy sock vacation because of what, if anythings.
Or what kind of vehicle?
I think it was like a small SUV.
Now, the vehicle that you saw outside.
This is when we're starting with Jen talking about Karen Reed's vehicle outside of 34 Fairview on January 29th, 2022. And she describes Karen's Lexus as just a little small baby SUV. Yeah, it's a 5 or 7 seater and it's 7,000 pounds. It's an infant. I agree.
Side of the residence of Fairview when you looked out the storm door, was that consistent with what you knew Ms. Reed to be driving at that time?
Yes.
Now, as far as that vehicle was concerned, at any point in time over the course of the evening, did you see anyone exit that vehicle or come out of that vehicle at all?
No.
Certainly never saw anybody exit that vehicle and walk over and come inside the house.
Well, and this is just where we're going to have to start. And I know I'm going to let it play, babes. Don't worry. We're shock and horror and all of the way to the bank on this one. But I want to revert your memory. If you saw my stream, because I don't have it, do I? I don't have the 911 call. Darn. Okay, I didn't get that clip. But she's just asked on direct, did you see anyone get out of the vehicle? And she says, no, right? But during her 911 call, she says he got out of the car. Oh, Jennifer.
Sustained.
As far as that vehicle when you first saw it, could you tell whether or not it was running or anything like that?
It was running. Yes, I could. I could tell it was running. It had the taillights. I could see the red.
I'm going to actually keep your voice up. Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Judge Canoni.
Now, in addition to the taillights that you saw, can you see the headlights or anything like that?
Yes, the headlights were on.
And as far as the interior of the vehicle, were there any lights on inside the vehicle that you saw at any point in time?
No.
And as far as the windows of the vehicle, what, if anything, did you observe as far as their coloration? Was it tint or anything like that you saw?
Didn't observe. No.
Now, you see the vehicle sort of straight ahead of the front door, and then you pull out your phone to text Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall what you texted to him at that point?
I think I said here ?
May I approach?
Yes.
Now let's get into the texts heard round the world.
In those pages that I've just placed before you, do you recognize the content of those?
I do.
What do you recognize those?
They are text messages between myself and John.
And from sort of specifically that time period of the early morning of January 29th to the morning of January 29th?
Yes.
And what's contained in those, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of the content of those text communications?
Yes.
Now, with reference to Mr. O'Keefe, this is someone that you knew and you had his information put into your phone as far as contact.
Yes.
And on prior occasions when you had contacted, or specifically that morning when you had left the waterfall and you talked to him on the phone, you called him and who answered? You called the contact that you had as John O'Keefe, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Who answered the phone?
John.
Okay. And then the contact that you had put in as John O'Keefe called you and you answered, and who was on the other line?
John.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
I want to introduce in a minute. No objection, Your Honor.
Thank you. And this is subject to what we talked about in sidebar?
No objection.
Thank you. That's exhibit 89. All right. Thank you.
Your Honor, with respect to what's now been marked as exhibit 89, if I could, with the court permission, publish that to the jury.
Yes.
Okay, what's up on the screen? Is that what you have before you as that exhibit?
Yes,
And this is a text communication between yourself and Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
correct.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, may we approach it?
Sure, why don't you take that down, Ms. Gilman? And, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gilman. So, Ms. McCabe, with what's for you and what's up on the screen is the exhibits. There are sort of green bubbles and blue bubbles, correct?
Correct.
And can you tell the jury as far as who's communicating which direction, as far as green bubbles are who and the blue bubbles?
Green is John and blue is myself.
And so the first text from this particular date, if you could just read to the jury as far as from whom the message is sent, what the content is, and then what the time is.
So John sent to me where to at 12:14.
If it assists you, if you have that in front of you.
Okay.
you can look at it. So the next bubble down is a blue bubble, is that correct?
Correct.
Similar to the one before, can you just read as far as that? Well, before I get to that, so you receive that message from Mr. O'Keefe. You call him, have a conversation, he calls you back for the conversation.
Correct.
And then subsequent to that, could you read the next blue bubble down as far as from whom, what the content is, and what time it is?
So this one is from myself to John, and it says here at 12:27. So
Okay. So I just want to stop there, babes. And just we're doing like we're strolling back in memory lane. And we're gonna say to ourselves, here, okay. So and Jen's gonna say, yeah, I saw them. I saw them right at this time. And then remember, this is before the end of the trial where Trooper Garino gets up and says, he drops the bomb, babe. I'm talking Hiroshima, bitch. And says that Karen Reed she connected back to Officer John O'Keefe's Wi-Fi at One Meadow at 12:36 a.m. Okay. So they get there allegedly at 12:27. This is where Jen says she sees the car outside. Then we're going to see another text message, and the timing is so tight. It's a toit tiger. Okay. And you're going to say to yourself, I don't even know if she could have walked from where she tells us, like, oh, yeah, I was getting up and I was going to the door and looking, seeing with my eyeballs, my own two eyes, that Officer John O'Keefe and the Karen Reed's Lexus vehicle is outside. Oh. And by the time she allegedly couldn't even have left the window, Officer John O'Keefe, per the Commonwealth's theory, would have had to been struck by the vehicle and Karen speed off in a lightning type speed as if she were Lightning McQueen from the Pixar animated film Cars. Okay? Speed her ass through the town of Canton and get directly into the range of Wi-Fi reception at Officer John O'Keefe's house.
at that point, I see a car out front, and I text him here.
You testified to as far as looking out the front storm door, seeing a car, and then you sent that text.
Correct.
And Ms. Gilman, if you would scroll down to that. And ma'am, similar, if you could just, who sent it, what's content, and what is the time?
I sent to John, pull behind me at 12:31.
And what were you referring
This is it. This is the moment we've all been waiting for when you're looking back at the text messages, right? Pull behind me. Okay, pull up, bitch. Bang, bang. Right behind me. And it is delivered at 12:31 and 47 seconds. Well, babe, the Commonwealth alleged after they had to back that school bus up, they had to, girl, you look good when you back that thing up, and said instead of 12:45, which was the opening statement that Adam Lally submitted, that Karen Reed struck Officer John O'Keefe because of Jen's text messages. But then they back it up to 12:32. And that's approximately, let's do math, 13 seconds from pull behind me. Okay.
to when you said hold on?
So at this point, the car had moved from the prior spot where I originally saw it. So I thought, what is he doing? Why don't they just pull behind me in the driveway?
And you just scroll down. And again, with this phone, we could read out.
From me to John saying hello, and it was at 12:40.
And at this point in time, as far as, let me ask you this way. When you're sending these text messages over these periodic time periods, what, if anything, are you doing sort of in between?
So I originally went to the front door, saw the car, texted them, then texted John. Then I went back, kind of sat at the table, just either threw my phone probably in my back pocket. And then a couple minutes later, I got up again and saw that the car had moved. So
Oh, hello.
later, I walked to the window, to the front door, sorry.
Okay. Well, this is our first question. And I was racking my brain. Again, the brain was racked, babes. And I said, shit, who, if anyone, don't be an owl, Kim, who said that Jen's phone wasn't in her back pocket that night? Because I swore to goodness gracious that someone said it. And then I found it, babe. And we're going to watch this little ditty. And tell me what you think.
Jen McCabe, around that time that Julie went outside of the house and came back in, what, if anything, did you observe her to be?
Her phone was plugged in behind me, charging. She was checking it periodically.
And again, if you could remind the jury sort of what was it that was behind you as far as where was you?
So where I was sitting behind me was a wall. And then behind that wall would be the family room.
And so I guess what I'm asking is, was there something specific that her phone was like resting on, or was it just sort of hanging out of the plug, or how was it positioned?
I think it was just resting on the floor.
And with reference to her phone, was that something that Ms. McCabe came over and looked at any point in time while it was charging?
Yes.
And how many times?
I'm not sure, to be exact.
Let me ask you this: was it once, or more than once, or something else?
More than once, I would say.
And without any reference to anything that was said, was there some conversation that you had with Ms. McCabe during the times that she would come over and check or look at the phone?
Myself, no. In general, I remember her saying someone was coming.
And that someone that she indicated was coming, again, no one ever actually came in the house or was around the house that you were aware of, correct?
Correct.
And so about what time was it that you left the home on Fairview on that particular evening?
Between 1:30 and 2 a.m.
Oh, babes, we got a problem. Okay. So we know that eventually that Jennifer McCabe likes or tells us that, like, yeah, I was butt dialing Officer John O'Keefe, and I butt dialed him several times. But here's the thing, babes, is you don't butt dial when your phone's on the charger and it is sitting down and you keep going over to that phone. Oh. So then, interestingly enough, Sarah Levinson, the nurse, says that Jen mentioned while she was checking the phone that someone was coming over. Oh. Well, that's interesting because weren't two people invited? Someone would indicate that you were expecting one person and that you weren't expecting the couple that you had just gone to the bar with to arrive. I don't know. Just to me, words matter. Facts matter. Okay. And that's what she remembered hearing. So you would go and check your phone because it was on low battery. Why? Because you were at basketball all day. Then you were at the waterfall. That makes sense. Of course, your phone needed some charging. You were playing It's Raining Men because it's an inside joke with you and your sisters. I get it. But I'm going to say if I was a betting woman, I think that there's been zero of butt dials that have occurred when your phone is not on your person? Thanks. Tell us more, Jen.
And when you went back to the front door, what, if anything, did you see that?
So at this specific point at 12:40, when I say hello, I cannot be certain whether they were still out front or if they had left.
And from any of these text messages that you sent, what kind of response did you receive from Mr. O'Keefe after coercion?
None.
Ms. Gilman, if you go to the next level. And similar to the prior one that we did.
Sure. Jen to John, where are you? And that was at 12:42.
Go to the next level.
Myself to John, hello, at 12:45.
Now, this is later in the morning, and we'll get to that a little bit more in a moment, but at some point you left the residence of Fairview, you went home, you were woken by something, and then
And this is why Kirstie Nursey is a star. She is a nurse. She is everything. The butt is critical to what? The butt dial. All right. I got a big old round face. Sometimes I hit mute on my own cell phone. Don't talk about it. I know. Odd and off-putting, if you will. But something needs to touch the phone in order to dial from one's ass or butt a face. Mm.
at some point you texted John later on that morning, 29th.
Yes,
You know, the next couple of those text messages that you sent at that point,
correct.
it was similar to the other ones.
Myself to John, please answer at 4:59. Myself to John, Karen is worried. We need to find you at 4:59. Myself to John, please answer so I know you're okay. 5:04.
Now, Ms. McCabe, if I can take you back to at the house on Fairview. Again, you're sending these text messages and going back to the table and then going back to the window at various times.
To the front door.
To the front.
Yes.
And
Okay, now, so this isn't us putting anything in Jennifer McCabe's mouth. This is coming from Jennifer's own testimony, her own recollection, which we know was hazy, lazy, and not accurate at times for all witnesses. But she's pretty adamant here that she went to the front door various times. Now, you didn't hear a woman, or not a woman, I guess, but anyone back up a vehicle at a whopping 4.2 miles per hour for 62 feet. And if there was a spontaneous combustion of said taillight, then there would have had to be noise, right? You're not cracking shit silently. One does not crack things silently on a vehicle, on a 7,000-pound vehicle. And especially not if you've gone over to the door umpteen times.
at any point in time, do you see anybody exit from the dark SUV or the black SUV you see in front of the house?
No.
And at any point in time, did John O'Keefe come into that?
No.
And at any point in time, did John O'Keefe respond to your text messages?
No.
At any point in time, did John O'Keefe call?
No.
Okay. Dream Feed Media. Hi, Lovey. How are you? Listen to me. You have to work hard to prevent it from going to voicemail mindfully. Now, that is something I want to talk about. And I will say that any of the times in my life, and I have, unfortunately, listen, I'm a butt dialer extraordinaire. I have done it. Less so since I went from Samsung, like from an Android to an iPhone, like 2 years ago. I know I'm elderly, leave me alone. But when I did that, it ended up changing like my ability to butt dial. And all of these people are iPhone users. Okay. So that's cool. Awesome. But the concern I had with it was with every single one of these butt dials, anytime I've ever done it, I'm talking in the back. You can hear me rustling, tussling. You can hear me singing salt and pepper. You can hear me doing all the things. So wouldn't it therefore, ergo, not be a butt dial if you are aware of it able to shut it off and immediately dial again multiple times. Oh,
Now, at some point subsequent to this, have you had occasion to look at your phone or at your call history?
Yes,
And through review of that, were you able to see phone calls that your phone made to John O'Keefe's phone around that same time frame that you were texting him and going to see?
yes,
May I approach, Ron?
Yes.
And I'm showing you a 4-page document.
Close your
You're
eyes.
finished, and if I could suggest, I think it starts in reverse order from page 4, timing-wise, up through page 1. And just generally speaking, ma'am, do you recognize what's contained in that 4-page document?
I do.
And what do you recognize?
The calls between myself and John O'Keefe.
And am I correct that it starts in sort of a ascending order as far as the earliest calls are on page 4, and then the most recent are on the first page?
Yes,
And the phone calls that you were testifying to about before, as far as talking to him on the way from the waterfall to residents at Fairview, did they appear in those?
they do.
Okay. May I have that?
So, Ms. McCabe, as far as the first calls that you were testifying about, as far as when you spoke to Mr. O'Keefe on the way from the waterfall to the residents at Fairview, were those contained within those calls?
Yes,
As far as, is there a time that's associated with those calls that you observe in those 4-page documents?
yes.
And what else?
12:14 and 12:18.
And turning your attention to page 1, that would be sort of the last in line there. What time is the last call between yourself and Mr. O'Keefe, and who's calling?
I'm calling him at 5:25.
May I approach him?
Yes.
Now, Ms. McCabe, you had mentioned that during the course of the evening, shortly after you arrived at the residence of Fairview, you observed a vehicle outside of your sister's house, correct?
Yes,
And Your Honor, with course permission, I would ask to publish with this witness Exhibit 71, 72, and 73.
Okay.
And Ms. McCabe, first and foremost, what's up on the screen is Exhibit 71. Do you recognize that?
I do.
Okay, I think you can just go right to what you wanted to identify, please, Mr. Lally.
Sorry, guys, I had to keep that in because even Judge Canoni at this point was like, okay, yep, let's wrap it up. So we're just going to go
Ms. McCabe,
forward
in front of you on the
here.
desk, there should be a laser pointer. Just click on the button and point at the screen. And if I could ask if you could.
And listen to Jen.
With respect to this photograph.
The picture.
In this photograph, where you first saw the black SUV in front of the house.
It was directly if I was staring out the front door. So this angle is kind of unique to see it. But if you go from the front door directly straight out, so maybe the edge, if you understand what I'm
Just a unique angle, guys, you know?
saying.
Using that as director.
Right.
So if there's the front door and I look straight out, but the perception is almost like a side view.
Right.
It's not straight on, so it could have been a little over here.
So, Lally, why don't you show another picture if this one isn't helpful?
Is it visible in this photograph?
Yes, so just be follow this and then come straight.
And lastly, Exhibit 73.
Now, guys, just to put all of our brains together, that this still doesn't make sense to me. I do not recall how Jen is saying that Karen's vehicle was directly in eye shot straight across from where the front door was, right on the street. But allegedly, we have to remember that some witnesses testified that Brian Higgins' white Jeep with a plow was right in front of that mailbox. And then behind that, at one point, when Julie Nagel's brother, Ryan, came to allegedly come pick them up, her and Sarah Levinson, that was the plan. And then she decided to stay and hang out a little bit longer. And then Jen and Mr. McCabe drove them home afterwards. Okay, that is all well and good. I don't believe, truly, that if we were to do a friggin', like, I don't know, maybe I'll have to ask a boy. And that's dumb because I'm not trying to be like saying that we can't do math, but I can't like estimate or guesstimate anything. If there's any boys in the chat, from the edge of where this property is, if there was if there was a white Jeep further back from where that front door is, I don't believe that that's even 62 feet. And then how would Karen have been able to stop a vehicle and then go forward and leave him. I don't, that has never made sense. That's not even a 62-foot stretch. Never mind getting it up to 24.2 miles per hour. And then how did he end up at the flagpole? If the car was always in your vision sight, like your field of vision, and then no one was seen again, that's not registering in my brain correctly. Oh, he's gray space, my scientist. Do you believe that there is 62 feet from the flagpole where allegedly he was, or they were, at 12:27, and then asked to pull behind me at 12:31, saw the vehicle again. The collision occurred at 12:32, and Karen was back at allegedly, and Karen was back at One Meadows in record time, in the fastest driving that has ever occurred after the first time she has ever been at this location, back at One Meadow. Bullshit.
Now, Mr. McCabe testified that at another point you come to the front door and you observe the vehicle in a different spot, correct?
Correct.
If you could, again, using the laser pointer, just for your attention to where this photograph is all you observe where the vehicle is second.
It was right about right near the flagpole.
Okay. Turning your attention to back in the home, at some point you indicated you looked out and didn't see the black SUV there anymore.
Correct.
And what was your thought as far as where John was or where John had gone at that point?
At that point, I thought maybe they decided not to come in. Maybe they got into an argument, or maybe Kaylee had called.
Did you think much of it at that point?
No.
Now, you leave the home around what time?
Approximately 1:30, roughly 1:30, 1:45.
And when you leave, who, if anyone, goes with you?
So it's myself, my husband Matt, and I had offered when Julie Nagel's brother had come to the house earlier. I had offered Julie and Sarah Levinson a ride home because we had just gotten there and they had wanted to stay later. So I also drove home Julie and Sarah. Well, my husband drove them home.
And so you exit the house, go out to the vehicle, correct?
Correct.
And your husband Matt was driving?
Yes.
Where are you seated?
And the front seat.
Oh,
And do you recall where Ms. Levinson and Ms. Nagel were seated in the car?
They were in the back seat.
Do you recall which one was on which side?
I do not.
And when you come out of the house and you're starting to go home, what, if anything, had changed as far as the weather from when you had gone in to when you had?
The snow had accumulated more.
And
this is interesting. Now, babes, listen to this. The snow had accumulated more. How much more, Jen?
when you get into the vehicle and as the vehicle is pulling away, what, if any, conversation do you recall having with anyone in the car?
When I got in the car, I kind of turned around to Julie.
I'm going to allow this subject to limited strength. This portion that's. Go ahead.
I turned around and was facing them and talking to them. And I believe Sarah Levinson had laughed or made a joke because I had bread or something in my car. And we made a joke about that. I had had my niece earlier that week for the week. And so I had brought stuff in the car because I was dragging her from one of my kids' sporting events to the next.
And as, do you recall which direction, or did you observe which direction your husband Matt exited from residence in Fairview? And by that I mean, did he head towards Chapman or did he head towards Seacrest?
Chapman.
And so as far as, I may not have asked this before, but as far as the black SUV that you observed in front of the house, which direction was that vehicle facing?
Chapman.
Each of the times that you saw it?
Yes.
And so as.
So, babes,
with that
that's
vehicle
just
as with the one,
that's just that it's going the same direction as like towards the flagpole, going by the house that way. Keep going, leaving the Albert house. Okay, no, wait a minute. Let's leave the Albert house. I want to just listen to that, and then we got another clip.
Sarah, where did you and your husband?
Home.
And this whole trip, sort of from Fairview to dropping off Ms. Nagel, Ms. Levinson, and then going home, about how long a period of time is that?
It could be 20, 30 minutes, maybe about approximately 20 minutes. Not exactly sure.
Okay, now let's listen to the lovely and talented Sarah Levinson as she describes how it was when they left 34 Fairview on January 29th, 2022, as she was at the house only to hang out with her pal, baby Brian, on his birthday, as he was going to be celebrating that at midnight.
Yes.
There were no obstructions blocking your view of that front lawn,
No.
and there were lights on next to the Albert home front lawn, correct?
Correct.
And there was also a lamppost where the front walkway is, correct?
Correct.
And between the two garage doors, there's also a spotlight, is there not?
Correct.
And you would testify that snow had started to accumulate, right?
Correct.
And against that white snow, did you see a black baseball cap?
No.
Did you see a black sneaker?
No.
Did you see a 6'2", 220-pound man sprawled out right in front of you on that lawn?
No.
Did you see 45 pieces of red plastic?
No.
One piece of red plastic?
No.
So you saw nothing unusual on that front lawn as you walked out of that house, correct?
That's correct.
As Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, and Julie Nagel were walking toward the McCabe car, none of them pointed to the front lawn to direct your attention to anything, correct?
That's correct.
In fact, you would testify that Matt McCabe forgot something and had to go back in the house, correct?
Correct.
Which means he actually came out of the house twice that night.
Oh, I forgot. I forgot that Matt McCabe went back into the house because he forgot something. So you're telling me with a light, it was lit up, right? I'm sure that it's dark. I'm not saying that it was like bright and like, it wasn't daytime, guys. I'm not saying that. But they had a light on the outside. There was lights in the house. There was a porch lights because they walked down the stairs. Sarah also reminds us that you could still see the brickway. The walkway was brick, and you could still see the brick coloring. And she made sure to look down because she wore high heels. Woo! House party high heels. Something I would be against for my, arch supports, but she was feeling froggy and she leaped. Okay. But these are the things she recalled. And they get in the car. And then not only did they walk out that one time, but Matt had to go back in the house, Mr. McCabe, and then comes back out again. For anyone who is local or has driven by 34 Fairview, I cannot express to you, babes, how small that lawn is, and that it literally takes 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, and you are from the end of the driveway all the way to like the next property. It is unbelievable how actually like IRL small it is. And I could see you walking out, not seeing anything, but to walk back in and to walk back out, I just have questions. Do you?
You arrived home sometime after 2 a.m., is that correct?
Yes.
And when you and your husband back got home, went inside the house, and where did you go?
I went upstairs to bed.
And at some point, did your husband come up as well?
He did.
Was it a long period of time between when you arrived home and when your husband came up?
I don't think too long. I think he had like some cheese or something because he was on a crazy diet, and then he came upstairs.
Now, did you go right to sleep, or what, if anything, did you do when you went up to bed?
I asked him to watch a show. He said no, he was going to fall asleep, which he does usually immediately. And I went on my phone.
And what, if anything, do you recall doing on your phone as far as going on?
I was researching. My husband and I did briefly talk. My daughter had gotten an offer to play on a club
Just tell us what you were doing, please.
Sure.
Oh.
I was researching a basketball team, and I believe I also texted my sisters, and I texted in a group chat with my husband and another individual.
Okay. Now listen, I don't know what people do on their own on their own cell phones. Do you, boo? Okay. Have a blasty blast. But you know what I'm not doing? I may be, I guess, after a day into a night of drinking, I might be researching the sports because my children are active in sports as well. And I think the same around ages of Jen's children at that time. But I don't know that I'd be group texting my siblings. right? If I texted my brother, I only have one brother. He's 6 years older than me, and he used to beat the shit out of me when I was a kid. That was a form of love. Um, and like, and we're not texting on the reg. I think that my daughters will be texting differently because they're sisters. I only have a brother. But like to hear this, that you're texting your sisters at 2 something a.m., I would think that there was an emergency, right? I wouldn't just be willy-nilly texting people, and nor would I be willy-nilly texting friends that I was in a group chat with my husband in at 2:30 in the morning. I wouldn't want people to think I'm a weirdo, because that's weirdo behavior, right?
Now, if I could just turn your attention back to when you were at the house on Fairview that evening, and I believe this is the last time, so I apologize for the back and forth. But when you were there, what, if any, videos or any music or anything that you pull up on your phone to share with the group that you did?
So one of my sisters loves the song Raining Men. And she always, well, not always, maybe every once in a while, she's a little too much to drink and takes out an umbrella and sings and dances. And it's like a big family joke. And my other nephew had previously been over and showed me the video from whenever, I don't know if it's the 1970s, of It's Raining Men. So I just was playing it, showing my other nieces and nephews, and we were just like laughing because they all have umbrellas, and it's just something, it's like an inside family joke. So I played that, I think, a couple of times.
And so after you get home and you're looking at the basketball program and things of that nature, what, if anything, else did you do before you went to bed or went to sleep? I should say?
Nothing. I possibly could have gotten up to go to the bathroom. I do that almost every night.
Now, at this time, you had an iPhone, is that correct?
Yes,
Did you also have an Apple Watch?
I did. Yes.
And do you recall whether or not you were wearing the Apple Watch that evening or when you went to bed or anything like that?
I do not recall.
And as far as the Apple Watch is concerned, is that something that you routinely or always take off before you go to bed?
Hi, Maddie Wags. No, she didn't play It's Raining Men while she was upstairs in her bed, but Lally had gone back in time. He likes to do, chapter 4, then he goes to chapter 13, then he's at chapter 6. He's not very chronological.
Mostly, but not always. I mean, there are times I go to bed with it on. More often than not, I take it off, but there are times that I do sleep with it.
And with respect to this particular evening, do you recall whether you had it on or whether you took it off or even had it on at all?
I don't recall if I had it on that night.
Now, bring back to that last exhibit.
Okay, no, now we got to do the next
You were
morning.
4:53 in the morning on Saturday.
No.
So you answered the call, is that correct?
Yes.
When you answered the call, who, if anyone, was initially on the other end?
Initially, it's Kaylee.
And what, if anything, did Kaylee say to you?
That John didn't come home, and Karen and we wanted to talk to me.
And even in that initial call, when you're speaking to Kaylee, what, if anything, do you hear sort of in the background when you're talking?
Karen screaming.
And could you hear what she was screaming?
She was just screaming, Jen, Jen, Jen.
Fairly loudly, is that correct?
Extremely.
Now, at
4:53.
what point does the defendant get on the phone with you?
She does.
And what, if any, conversation do you have with her at that?
She proceeds to scream my name multiple times, and she tells me that John didn't come home, they got into a fight, and that she left him at the waterfall.
And how do you respond?
I had just woken up. I was confused. I didn't know what she was talking about. I was like, what are you talking about? And then she, told me that they had gotten into a fight and she left him there. And now where is he? And she was just kept screaming my name over and over. And so then I remembered that Chris Albert had still been at the bar. So I thought, well, maybe John walked home with Chris because Chris lives close to the waterfall.
Okay. I want everyone to check your pulse because I know that we have seen this in trial 1.0, but the amount of gaslighting that occurs to us, okay, as the viewers watching this, to the jury, and the mental gymnastics that had to have gone on in this woman's brain is beyond me, okay? Karen initially said, allegedly, to Jen that she had left Officer John O'Keefe at the waterfall. Allegedly, okay? Now she's going into this dissertation and she's going to tell us, well, maybe he walked home with Chris. Well, I'm sorry, bitch. No offense. Sorry, pardon me. But you 100% knew that Karen was at your sister's house. You knew that. So it does not make any sense in any stretch of the imagination that Officer John O'Keefe and Karen would, Officer John O'Keefe and Chris Albert rather, would have walked together. But now take us even further down this delusion.
And so at some point that conversation ended and you recall how that ended?
I told her that I was going to call Julie and see if John had ended up with Chris.
And so you hang up with her, and then what did you do then?
I called Julie Albert.
And did Julie pick up the phone?
She did not.
And as you were calling Julie, did you have any conversation with your husband, Matt, around that time?
Yes. He, had kind of shot up out of bed when Karen had called. When Kaylee had called because Karen was screaming. And then he was, what's going on? And I said, well, I'm calling Julie because Karen, they got into a fight and I was trying to explain it to him. And he said, what are you talking about? We saw them outside of your sister's house. And at that point, I hung up.
That's interesting because Kaylee didn't say in the phone call that they got into a fight at this point. So that was a slip there, Jen. There was no mention of a fight. There was a mention that Officer John O'Keefe didn't come home.
And when you hung up, Julie had not answered yet. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, as far as Miss Reed, is that someone who had your phone number? Did you have her plugged into your phone as a contact before that date of January 29th?
No.
You never had any kind of conversation with her over the phone as far as a text or a phone call or anything. You didn't even have her information.
Correct.
And so after hanging up while calling Julie, what, if anything, did you do then?
And then I'm not sure if I called Kaylee back or if Kaylee called me back.
At some point, you get back in touch with Kaylee, or at least her phone, correct?
Yes, I get Karen. I get in touch with Karen again, and I say, Karen, we saw you outside of my sister's.
And what was her response to that?
She told me that she didn't remember going there, and then she started yelling, Jen, Jen, and then she was saying, did I hit him? Could I have hit him? And then she proceeded to say that she had a cracked taillight.
I am convinced. I wanted to just take one moment, babes, and let you know that after seeing the Canton Police Department audit, having my recollection and literally reviewing all of the testimony, seeing Sergeant Good, Lank, Mulaney, and Seraph, right? None of those officers documented anything about I hit him, or could I have hit him, or did I hit him? Nothing of that sort at all until 9 a.m. after Officer John O'Keefe had been pronounced at Good Samaritan Hospital at 7:50 a.m. When Jen calls up, she calls up Lanka, and he comes back. And what she says and what is memorialized in a report is, I hope I didn't hit him. Not what she testifies to in this trial.
And this is while you're still in your home and you're in your bedroom, correct?
Correct.
And what was your response to that?
I thought she was honestly like just talking crazy. And then she said, oh my God, I left him there. Like she was extremely irrational. She said that it told me again that they had gotten into a fight. So now she was just kind of all over the place, just screaming. She was very hard to understand. So my brain started going, okay, well, if she left him there, where could he be? Who could he be with?
And as you're going through that sort of process, what did you do next?
So then.
So if you saw one of your good friends, your really good friend, your close friend, one of your best friends, girlfriends calls you and says, hey, I left him at the waterfall. You know damn the fuck right well that he was her car was at 34 Fairview at your sister's home after the waterfall. And she's saying, the girlfriend keeps saying, oh, I might have left him at the waterfall. And you have already told her that you saw her after you guys had left the waterfall, or you saw her vehicle rather, why would you be feeding in to who he could have left the waterfall bar with?
Earlier in the night, there was another individual who we had been in contact with, or my husband had been talking to, and he had mentioned that he was gonna meet up with John at Waterfall as well, but he never ended up coming. I knew he was at a house close to Fairview, so I thought, well, maybe if they got into a fight, like John might have texted this individual, and maybe he just ended up on his couch.
Who was that individual?
Tom Beatty.
And who was
Tom Beatty.
How did you know?
He has 2 daughters that are the same age as my daughters.
One of those daughters, at least around the same age as Taylor.
Yes.
And so, based on sort of that process, thought process, and what you're doing, what did you do then?
So then I start calling Tom.
And at any point in time, did you call Tom? Did Tom pick up the phone? Did you speak with him?
He did not.
And so, following that, what did you do?
So I know at some point I was starting to call John. My husband was as well. At that point, I get up and I'm like, okay, well, got to go out and look for him. And in my head, I was thinking I'll drive over to Tom's and maybe he's there. I then go downstairs. Matt gets up. He's starting to get dressed. I go downstairs. I make a coffee. And I'm not sure how much time passed. But then all of a sudden I hear screaming out front.
Now, if I could just take it back for a second, as far as a decade or so that you would.
Just a reminder, babes, like because of nursing and mental health and things like that, you tend to see sometimes in my training and experience, just an opinion here. If you give whack ass detail, right? Like not detail related to a massive event, a hugely traumatic event, but you're able to recall minuscule details such as, and then, yep, I went downstairs and I made a coffee and I did this. That's deceptive, or it is trying to find memories where you're not wanting to divulge larger portions, in my experience.
With known and been friends with John O'Keefe, with his either his niece or his nephew or both home. Is him not coming home? Is that something that had ever happened before? You were ever aware of before?
I was never.
Ask it differently.
Had John ever gone out at night and then not come home and the kids?
Objection.
I'm going to allow it.
Not to my knowledge, no.
So at some point you make your way downstairs, is that right?
Correct.
And then what, if anything, did you hear once you were downstairs?
Screaming
And where was the screaming coming from?
out front.
And when you heard that screaming, where did you go?
I ran to my front door.
At some point, did you open your front door?
I opened my front door, correct.
And then what did you see when you opened the front door?
Miss Reed came running up my walkway.
And prior to, during any of the other conversations that you had with Miss Reed, did you know where she was when you were talking to her?
No.
Obviously, the first call was Kaylee calling from the house. That
Yes.
Was the assumption.
Mhm.
And then
So
subsequently.
was that a yes or no?
Yes.
And as far as the second call that you were talking about, do you know where she was when she was talking to you then?
The first couple of calls, I know she was at the house, and then I don't know.
Oh,
So was opening your door, hearing the screaming from out front, was that something that surprised you?
Yes.
And when you hear the screaming, if you could just explain to the jury, how loud was the screaming that you were hearing?
Very loud.
And what, if anything, was she saying?
It was more of the, Jen, did I hit him? And then she would yell, did I hit him? Could I have hit him? And then she was yelling, we have to go to Fairview.
oh, okay. So now we're going down a path of Jen saying that Karen comes to the house is hysterical, okay? And she is again saying, did I hit him, or to that nature? And she's now demanding that they go to Fairview when just minutes before she believed she left him at Waterfall. Okay.
And in addition to Miss Reed, what, if anything, else did you see when you opened up the door?
Just,
Ask in a better way.
yeah.
Did you see a vehicle?
yes,
And where was the vehicle and what did the vehicle look like?
it was in my driveway. I believe the driver door was left open.
And what kind of vehicle was it?
A black Lexus.
Consistent with what you had seen outside of Fairview the night or earlier in the morning.
Yes.
And so as she's she's coming up your walk towards your front door?
Running, yes.
And then what, if any, conversation did you have with her there in reference to that?
I just said, Karen, Karen, I was trying to calm her down. Matt came, I believe, and was yelling down that she was going to wake up the neighborhood. And then she was yelling that we had to go to Fairview. So I told
Matt was afraid she was going to wake up the neighborhood. Yeah. Ironically enough, she didn't wake up the owner of the lawn that she was screaming at for the longest period of time. Just saying.
Matt that I was going to go with Karen.
Initially, before that, what were your plans as far as going to look for John before Miss Reed showed up?
My husband and I were going to go to Tom Beatty's.
Now,
her husband, Matt McCabe, Mr. Veneers, as I call him, gently and respectfully, look, a lot of big teeth, a lot of big old teeth coming out of there, chiclets, if you will. They were going to go do a trut to Tom Beatty's house when they knew that Karen and John's car, or what they had gotten into a vehicle at Waterfall Bar and Grill, was in front of 34 Fairview after they left the waterfall. It doesn't make sense.
once you decide that now you're going with Ms. Reed, the defendant, where did the two of you go?
So as we walked out, there was a car pulled up and then a plow.
Recognize the car pulled up?
No.
I'm sorry. So the car pulls up and then the plow, and then what happened?
So in the car was Kerry Roberts. And so she kind of rolled down the window and was like, Karen, what are you doing? And then the plow was behind her. So Kerry pulled up and I believe I told Karen that I was going to drive her car because I didn't want driving because she was hysterical. So we got in her car.
Remember that too, babes, because this was an oversight. Jen says she didn't want Karen to drive because she was hysterical. Kerry Roberts, on the other hand, allegedly believed that Karen was still ham-boned, still like hammered, okay, and shouldn't have been driving due to alcohol. But Jen doesn't say that. She says that she's hysterical. And I want to remind you, you guys know, I've always said this. I have always said that it was not a leap for me to, and you're going to think it's weird, or you're going to say, be medicated, Kim. I know. Okay. Stop it. I'm an anxious lady. There have been a couple of times in my life that I have woken up and had so much like a pit. It's called, like, I feel like it's just impending doom, a feeling of impending doom. Or I believe something has happened to someone. And if my daughters or Mr. Nurse Kim, I have teenage daughters, Mr. Nurse Kim, my father now too, if they don't answer the phone for me after I've called a certain amount of times, I immediately go to they're dead in a ditch somewhere. I don't know. My Nana used to do the same thing to me. Okay. My Nana Phyllis. And like, that's why, like, she'd be like, I thought you were dead in a ditch somewhere. And I was like, oh my God. Like, it has never not made sense to me that if Karen got home, she maybe thought he was playing a little, hide the salam with someone. Okay. And then he doesn't come home and he doesn't answer his niece. Immediately in my brain, that makes sense. I know that it's not, maybe a typical reaction, but people react differently. And that is not consciousness of guilt by thinking that you have been injured, or also putting the blame as a woman on oneself and saying, if I dropped you off here, that I didn't even remember 30 to 45 minutes ago, I'm going to harness that blame, or that I'm going to say things that are going to be me processing and working through what I have come upon. And yet, for whatever reason, no one else asked questions. At least Karen fucking said, oh God, did I drop him off? What is happening here? Not another soul asked a question. that you could hear either on that 911 call or to the officers and responding paramedics and fire. No one said, what the fuck happened here? Did he did he fall? Did he slip? Did he have a heart attack? Like anything? No one? Commonwealth supporters will say to us that, oh, it's so guilty. Karen is so guilty for saying, am I responsible? And yet at your sister's house, you didn't question the safety of your baby nephew, your little baby Brian's birthday, your sister, your brother-in-law. You weren't worried about them. You didn't jump in that house. You couldn't have fucking held me back if it was my sister or my brothers. And you weren't working through in your brain what the fuck could have happened here. I don't know. I find that odd.
Kerry Roberts called Karen, and then Karen was screaming and, saying that she had cracked her taillight. We need to go to Fairview. Could I have hit him? Did I hit him? And then she would just scream our names. Kerry was telling her to shut up, that we needed to just go back to John's and we'll drive in one car and let's go to John's. Maybe he's there and he's passed out and you didn't see him.
Now, when you open up the door initially and you come outside and you see the defendant out there screaming and all of that, again, with respect to the weather, what was the weather at that point?
Oh,
It was like dark and it was almost like a whiteout.
And so you get into Ms. Reed's vehicle, correct?
Yes.
And you're driving that vehicle from your house to Meadows Ave, is that correct?
Yes.
That's Mr. O'Keefe's house?
Yes.
You're familiar with that residence? You've been there plenty of times before?
Yes.
oh.
Now, with respect to Kerry Roberts, did you know Kerry Roberts prior to this morning of January 29th?
I had met her once before.
And can you describe to the jury sort of the circumstances of that or how you knew her prior to January 29th?
They went to the Reebok store because Officer John O'Keefe had a 50% discount, and he really depended on the girls in his life, the females in his life that were motherly figures and were really helpful with him, with the kids. And he took them to Reebok outlet to buy the kids sneakers. And also then he took them out to lunch at the hillside.
Helping, because that's what he did.
Now,
God rest his soul.
Kerry Roberts, someone that you had as contact saved in your phone, had you ever texted her, or called her, talked to her over your phone before?
No.
So you indicated that Mr. Roberts then called Ms. Reed's phone while you were in Ms. Reed's car, correct?
Yes.
Now, as far as that, Ms. Reed's phone, was that similar to your phone that earlier in the morning? Was that hooked up in any way or matched or paired with the vehicle that you were driving?
Yes.
So fair to say you could hear both sides of the conversation as far as Ms. Reed talking next to you and then obviously Ms. Roberts on the other end.
Yes.
So the conversation that you were talking about as far as Ms. Roberts saying, shut up and we're going to Meadows Ave and all that, you could hear Ms. Roberts saying that?
Yes.
Oh, I just wanted to say thank you so much, Tracy Walker. You're an angel face for 20 non-consensual Nurse Kim memberships. Oh my. No one asked for it, but you got it today, babes. Let's just take a moment and be thankful, because I sure am for you, Tracy.
Now, the vehicle, when you get into the defendant's vehicle, she pulled in straight into your driveway, is that correct?
Yes.
So fair to say you had to back out of the driveway, correct?
Correct.
Now, when you were operating Ms. Reed's vehicle in reverse, what, if anything, showed up in sort of the center console area of that vehicle?
I do not remember. I don't know.
You recall
Oh
the
yeah, he
camera and-
goes into, he's trying to make it seem like there was an issue with the backup, that did you see a camera, etc.
And at some points, about how long a period of time was Mr. O'Keefe's driveway looking at the tractor?
Not long, because then
Oh, sorry, I went too far.
Karen brings us to the back of the car and she says, look, see, I have a cracked taillight.
And where on the vehicle?
Oh, well, that was honest. Isn't that some shit? That's very honest. Thank you, Jen, for letting that one come through, babe. She says that Karen showed the taillight to the girls when they got back to One Meadow. And she said, guys, look, I got a cracked taillight. And she states that this occurred when they arrived from at being at Jen's house and coming back to One Meadow before they go in to look at Officer John O'Keefe, where Karen just came from. That's slightly insulting. Like, oh, I didn't see my boyfriend and he's not answering his niece, but he's in the same house. Shut the fuck up.
Or was she directing yourself and Ms. Roberts' attention?
The back right.
Now, I do want to put in a clip right here, babes, of Kerry Roberts, okay? Because Jen was insistent upon her testimony in all forms, when it was either her direct or cross, that Karen Reed was the one who insisted, demanded, stated, we need to get back to, we have to go to Fairview. We have to go to Fairview. Implying that she knew that Officer John O'Keefe was at Fairview and that they would be finding him. Well, listen to what the one and only Kerry Roberts specifically had to say about this. That is... Oh, did I not do that one? Oh. Okay, I didn't clip that one, babes. It was taking me too long. But she says specifically, Kerry Roberts, that in the car, she is hearing the conversation that Jen and Karen had on the Bluetooth. And Karen says, I left him at the waterfall. And Jen speaks to her, or is talking to Karen, and is saying, no, you were at my sister's house. So Kerry actually does not agree that it was Karen who was demanding they go to 34 Fairview, but rather she only wanted to go after Jen provided her that fact.
Passenger side, rear part of the vehicle.
Yes.
And when you looked at that area of the vehicle, what could you see about it?
I saw that there were missing pieces, but there was also snow covering it. And Karen was screaming, look, look. And then Carrie was screaming back at her. It was very chaotic. So I didn't stare in depth, but what I can tell you is I saw missing pieces from the taillight.
And at some points, how long a period of time does the driver, Mr. O'Keefe's driveway, looking at the tractor?
Not long, because then Carrie's, yelling at her, telling her she's crazy and that she's driving around wrong and she would have hit any.
Also, I do want to remind you, babes, that there was never any ring like camera that picked up and in the surveillance that showed Jen, Kerry, and Karen looking at that. And Commonwealth supporters may want you to believe that Karen did something with that ring footage, but it has been confirmed by Mass State Police and Trooper Guarino that Officer John O'Keefe only accessed his ring system, which he accessed it a lot. He was very particular about his security, his yard. There were issues with the Albert family. The youngest son, allegedly, there was an issue with candy, or like he ended up buying him candy because he cut through the yard. Officer John O'Keefe was looking at that system at all times. Karen never accessed it from computers that it has been viciously alleged that when she went up to get her things, that up at One Meadow after the hospital, that was the time she deleted critical evidence. There's no evidence of that.
Anything, and kind of rushes us to go into the house to look in there for John.
Your Honor, the information I've asked is like published on screen was marked as exhibit number 2. Okay. And Mr. McCabe, do you recognize what's up on the screen?
I do.
What is it?
That is Meadows Ave, John's house.
And the driveway of the front, as far as where you think, that's not visible in this photograph, correct?
Okay, and now let's get, okay, that's the tail light. Here it is.
Mr. McCabe, what's depicted in this photograph is the defendant Ms. Reed's vehicle, correct?
Correct.
And in sort of focus here is the right rear passenger side of that vehicle, correct?
Correct.
And the taillight, if you could, with the laser pointer, just direct your attention to where you observe that. Now, man, with respect
I don't know
to
about
what's
you, babes,
depicted
but
in
that
this
don't look like
photograph,
a crack to me. That doesn't even look to me, in my humble opinion, that could have been covered by any amount of snow. And so what did I do, babes? I end up finding the picture from the morning of January 29th, 2022. Now, if you know the other side, do you see these little, can you see this little fin on the other side, on the other tail light? The little outward looking fins that are very specific in Lexuses. That's part of it, like intact tail light. And let's compare that to this. Can I make this bigger? Oh, to exit. Okay. Do you see where that looks like a fin right there, babes? That looks like, yes, there is caked on snow. Does it look like it's got a little damage like right there, I think? Yeah. But we know that Karen said that her taillight was cracked. I also think that this looks different than this side on the Traverse. But this is definitely not a clear indication of what condition this taillight was in. And I'm also going to say for shit and sure that I see at least red going up into this corner. Okay? And now let's look at what they're trying of what is in the Sally port. Oh. There's no red here. There's nothing here. And how in the ever-loving fuck would snow have just piled in there in some way to be the most ironic and unbelievable alibi that Karen Reed could have ever gotten?
as far as any damage that you observed to this taillight area on the rear passenger side, is that consistent with what you observed in the driveway at One of Meadows Ave when the defendant was showing?
Correct, minus the snow, etc.
So you don't know.
And,
You don't know.
And again, do you recognize what's depicted in this photograph?
Yes,
And this is essentially a closer image of that same rear passenger side taillight area, correct?
yes,
Again, what's depicted in this, is that consistent with what you observed minus sort of the caked in snow when you were in the driveway of Mr. O'Keefe's house on the morning of the 29th?
yes.
Oh, actually, now that we're doing this, wait a sec. Wait a good goddamn second here. Let me, okay, ready? Okay, we're right here.
What you observed.
Stay right there, babes. Look at this. What did that? What is that damage that is right here? If Officer John O'Keefe struck the taillight with his arm, which he had no metal plates and is not a bionic man, okay? Okay. How in the Christ would this dent be attributed to an accident that only hit a pedestrian in their right upper extremity? I mean, what are you saying did that? Because did his elbow break the taillight? Was it allegedly him holding a glass that broke the taillight? But then maybe his fingers. If this is what it is, right? Did his fingers cause an alleged dent? And how do you know that that occurred allegedly the same night? Karen had this car for several months. Ugh.
Minus sort of the caked in snow when you were in the driveway.
Rock Street.
Run this into fire.
Karen brings us to the back of the car and she says, look, see, I have a cracked taillight.
Oh, no, she didn't. Thanks to the trial channel.
Passenger side taillight. Now, Ms. McCabe, you then, yourself, the defendant, and Ms. Roberts then get into Ms. Roberts' vehicle, is that correct?
Yes,
Correct.
Who seated where within Ms. Roberts' vehicle as you're going from Meadows Ave? Or what was the plan and where were you going sort of first when you left Meadows Ave?
we were going to Fairview
And why were you going to Fairview?
because Karen kept screaming, we need to go to Fairview.
Oh, did she?
Now, who was seated where within the vehicle when you did it?
Kerry was driving, I was in the passenger seat, and Karen was in the back.
And what were the lighting conditions at this point that you're driving over there?
It was hard to see out the window. You really had to be kind of staring out. It was dark. The snow was coming out the car.
And as you're making that drive, or as Ms. Roberts is making that drive from Meadows Ave to Fairview, about how long a drive is it?
Approximately 10 minutes. I mean, with the weather, the lights.
Oh, oh. And I just want you all to put that deep right in your put a feather in your cap, clutch your pearls, clench your butts, lovies. From One Meadows, it took approximately 10 minutes with the weather and the lights. And she's giving direction to her sister's house to Kerry Roberts, right? To go to this house. This isn't like, I don't know, Karen driving home to John's house from 34 Fairview the night before, where she had never been to that residence ever. And I'm sure she needed directions to get home, but she did it in 4 minutes versus it took 10 minutes for them the next morning, per Jennifer McCabe.
You know, the street lights at, I would say about 10 minutes, give or take.
And as far as during the drive from Meadows Ave to Fairview, what's going on inside the car over the course of that ride?
Karen is in between us, like from the back, kind of pushing up in between Kerry and myself. And she's just screaming, Kerry, Kerry, her name over and over, my name over and over, and repeating certain phrases. Could I have hit him? Did I hit him? Kerry is yelling at her to shut up, to sit back, to buckle up, to look for John.
And while this is going on, what, if anything, are you and Ms. Roberts doing in the front seat?
We're just, she's slowly driving and I'm just peering out the window looking for John. I mean, it was a crazy situation. She's screaming, he didn't come home. Could he be walking home?
Okay. All right, babes. Now, this I just found interesting because why are you looking for John out the window? But you're alleging that it's weird that Karen finds John when you pull up, okay, to the location of which you do. And you think that she says she hit him. Kerry Roberts says allegedly he's dead. But yet you all thought that he was at a blizzard party or poking a broad, a local broad somewhere. None of this makes sense. None of this response makes sense. Did Karen say I hit him? Or were you actually looking for him because you thought that he could have been anywhere?
Where is he? So we're just looking out the window, looking for John.
Now, during the time that this is going on and Ms. Reed is sort of screaming in between you, was that continuous or what, if anything else, did you see her doing in the back seat while you were going from Meadows Ave there?
I didn't see her doing anything. She just continuously screamed that. And then as we got by different landmarks, she then started, screaming, asking if John could be at certain people's houses.
And whose houses was she asking if John could be at?
If she could be at Bella's house.
referring to the directions that you had provided the night before?
Correct.
And so that would have been, Bella was a child who was around the age of Kaylee and your daughter, correct?
Yes.
And there have been some years in the past dating relationship between Mr. O'Keefe and Bella's mother, correct?
Yes.
And so Ms. Reed is saying that in the car that morning as you're driving over to Fairview?
Yes. She asked.
So, oh, this just makes my brain bleed. My brain hurts after I hear this because it's too much. Karen left John messages, babe. She left him voicemails of a pissed off girlfriend. Okay. She said, "You're using me. You're a pervert. I'm leaving. I'm out of here." That's what Karen Reed said. She said, "John, I fucking hate you." Want to know why? Because she thought he was getting his pickle tickled. Okay? The night before. Now, maybe there was, a little bit of a fight, like a verbal argument, because we know that in Aruba, I truly believe that Marietta Sullivan, the full-faced vixen herself, when they were getting off that elevator, absolutely, they swapped some spit, okay? There was a little kissing. There was smooching happening. And the fact that Karen Reed didn't show any violence in that, she didn't take off her hoops and put on her Adidas and smack a hoe, lets me know, allegedly, that she does not have a tendency for anything violent. And maybe in the car, when Jen said, "Oh, hey, go by Bella Street," or whatevs, right? That there may have been a moment that Karen was like, ew, I have the ick. You know who the fuck I have the ick from? Jen. Because you're not a girl's girl. If you're saying and bringing up, as I'm on my way to your sister's house for an after party I don't want to go to, for your anxiety-ridden 23-year-old nephew who couldn't even go out and go to a bar. He had to stay home because he has panic attacks. And you thought bringing two randos home from the bar seemed like a good idea for your nephew's mental health. That's very selfish and says, in my opinion, it's weird that he's having a party with all of his girlfriends and you guys just were like, "Yeah, come on back. We're going to party." He didn't want to hang out with old people. And then you call John calls you back and you give directions that is going to put a hair across any girlfriend's ass. And especially when a month before, allegedly, he may or may not have been, drunk, sloppy, and making out with a girl in Aruba. Yeah, that's ew. I have the ick. I definitely don't want to hang out with you. I would have got to that fucking house and I would have been like, "Have a great night. The door is going to be locked." Okay? So locked. All right, hun? Thanks. And you would have caught a verbal lashing from me, not a murderous one. And I don't think you're never going to tell me, based on evidence on Officer John O'Keefe's body, the vehicle, and the fuckery that has been afoot in this case, that Karen Reed is just snapped a rod because a girl mentioned someone he used to, have cunnilingus with. No.
Could he have been with Ashley? And I looked at her and said no, because to me that was a crazy idea. And then Carrie had mentioned, "Oh, do you think he could have called somebody else that lived on a street over?" And she started screaming, "Who's that? Who's she?"
And you recall who Carrie referred to?
Yes.
And who was it?
Garrett Gruden. "Hey, babe. No offense, but a lot of those back east chicks don't like the thought of their boyfriends out dipping the shtick. Hi, babe. I know I am one of those back east broads, okay? And I would absolutely be pissed. 100%. But I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. Unfortunately, there is a reputation for police officers in general that they fuck, okay? That they're out fucking. All right? Your police officer boyfriend not coming home on a Friday night was not taken even seriously at all by good. Wanna know why? Because it was a Friday fucking night. And and that's a generalization, and I don't mean it in like a fresh way. I know that there are wonderful, very loyal, incredible police officers, but I'm saying like stereotype wise, there's a lot of shtick dipping.
A woman that John had previously dated.
And was that anywhere recent in time to when you're driving around on January 29th when they had dated?
No,
So similar to Bella's mother would have been years before.
correct.
And so when Ms. Roberts said that, what, if anything, did the defense?
She was just spiraling, yelling about Ashley, who was Bella's mom, and just talking what I thought was very irrational about John maybe being with her.
Okay, so she's thinking that John may be over at Ashley's house, okay? Giving her a little 1, 2, 3. All right? And playing the horizontal mamba together, but she is going back. She wants you guys to take her right back to the scene that the Commonwealth alleges that she knows that she unalived her boyfriend at. She's taking you back. She's saying, yeah, absolutely. Let's go. I left him. I definitely drove my car in reverse, struck him, left him there. And I also do believe that he could have gotten up and then went to go fuck Ashley. Okay. Okay. Pick a lane.
So you're looking around outside of the vehicle as the vehicle is going down towards Fairview, is that correct?
Yes.
And you recall how it was that Ms. Roberts came about coming to Fairview, similar to the night before? Did she come in from the Chapman side or from the Cedar Crest side?
Chapman.
And as the vehicle turns from Chapman onto Fairview, what, if any, conversation was going on at that?
Well, Bella lives on that street, so that was when that conversation was being had. Also, just a continuation. It was just like continuous screaming of our names. Carrie screaming at her to sit back, and then sometimes she would sit back and almost like be quiet for a minute, and then it would start all over again.
Now, as you were coming down Fairview Road, what, if anything, were you saying to Ms. Roberts, did Ms. Roberts know where she was going as far as where your sister lived?
No, I told her that my sister lived at the bottom, and then as we got closer, I said, just past, see where those trees are. Just past the trees is my sister's house.
And as you got in that area, sort of the trees, from the residence of your sister at 34 Fairview Road, trees that you're talking about, where are they in relation to the property?
They're at the start of the property is the trees, and then their property begins.
Okay, and this makes sense too, babes. Now, for anybody in the Commonwealth that wants to say, oh my gosh, Karen was the only one who saw him. She is guilty because she knew exactly where he was. How about if you are watching this testimony back with me and you hear that now Jen, which I forgot, that Jen said right at the trees. Okay, my sister's house is right after these trees. Karen is sitting behind Kerry, who was driving, right? Her Ford Explorer. She's looking out the back window. And you just gave a landmark of the fucking tree line that Officer John O'Keefe was found at. Oh, I got something in my pocket for you. It's right there. Okay. So that doesn't look that sus to me.
And so the flagpole area and fire hydrant that you were talking about in earlier exhibits, is that in the same area as the trees?
Yes, a little. It goes the trees, and then the fire hydrant. Then further up is the fire hydrant and the flagpole.
As you're coming down Fairview now, approaching 34 Fairview, the house would be on which side of the vehicle, on the driver's side or the passenger side?
The driver's side.
And as you approach that area where the trees and the flagpole and the fire hydrant were, what, if anything, happens then?
We drive past the flagpole area, And all of a sudden, Karen starts screaming, there he is, and she's banging to get out.
And banging on the door in the backseat.
Yes.
And at the time that she's saying this, were you able to see anything outside of the vehicle?
I saw nothing.
And what, if anything, when she's banging and kicking the door, banging on the door, what did Miss Roberts do?
Miss Roberts unlocked the door. Karen got out. Miss Roberts looked at me and said something like, she's crazy or she's batshit crazy, something like that.
And when the defendant gets out of the vehicle, where is it that she goes?
She just runs
And runs away.
straight to John.
And again, when she's running, at this point in time, can you see what she's running toward or where she's going or anything that she's talking about?
I was on the passenger side. So as I got out, she was already at John.
So she gets out and essentially makes a beeline over to where John was.
Correct.
And you're getting out of the passenger side. And by the time you come around the car, she's already there.
Yes.
And when she gets over there, what, if anything, could you see at that point?
She straddles John and she lifts up his shirt, and then she lifted up her shirt and went to lay on him. And Miss Roberts went over and she was removing the snow from his face.
Let me take a step back from that just for a moment. And Your Honor, with the court's permission, I would ask to publish just a portion of what's been marked as Exhibit 12.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Cave, I'm going to direct your attention up to the screen what's been marked as Exhibit 12. And I know this is not something that pertains to your vehicle or anything else. But what I'm going to ask you as it plays through is if what you observed in this video is consistent with what you observed during the drive to Fairview.
Dubra 79, stop it. Nurse Kim, I just fucking love you. Stop it. I love you too, Dubra. And your commentary is everything. Thank you for all that you do for this movement, FKR. And listen, babes, all of you are incredible. I can't even believe anybody shows up and hangs out with me on a Sunday, okay, on our Lord's Day. But this is a movement. It's not a moment. And we are making a stand here for Officer John O'Keefe, as well as Karen Reed, and the corruption that we see in the Commonwealth, in Norfolk Superior Court, all right, true, Mass State Police, and the DA's office. This was a monumental shift in our public need to remove the wool from our eyes. No more going back to sleep, because Karen could be you or I, or our sisters, or our daughters, or our cousins, or our friends. There needs to be reform, and we need to ensure that this can't happen again. Not to Karen, not to Sandra Birchmore and her unborn child, not to Enrique Delgado Garcia, not to Justin Root, not to anybody. I love you. Thank you.
It's going to be quick play.
Now, this spoke to me, babes, and I wanted to show you something very specific because I said, oh, do you remember, which I'm sure you do because you're the best that ever lived, but do you remember Mr. Trotter? Okay. He was my angel baby face from the movie Pixar's film Up. Okay. He looked like the guy with the balloons. Oh, I could cry. I'm obsessed. He taught me everything I know about F-150s, F-250s, F-350s, and Frankentruck, everything. Okay. He is the he is the public works for Canton. Okay. He runs all the shit. He taught us that when plowers plow, they do it in a specific format, right? You go up the middle and you're just trying to clear, right? And then at the end, you scoop that snow that has been scooted up the road the whole entire time. Then you drop that bitch off, okay? You drop her off on her side into the piles of like the banks of the snow at the end of the snowstorm. This specific picture that I have up right now was at 6:09 and 22 seconds. And I wanted you to see the amount of snow. Oh, that was actually, that you can see that was moved by the plow. You can see the scrapes, right? And that is indicative of how they're pulling the snow up the road, and that it's not going directly like into just the piles on the side as it was depicted by Adam Lally, who is saying like, oh yeah, oh that's, of course we found all the tail light. Of course we found every single piece of this tail light at 34 Fairview. 45 pieces of taillight, babes, was never pushed down the street when the Department of Public Works were out. There wasn't any found at, as Matt McCabe, as Mr. Veneers calls the Asian house. You put together a taillight literally almost in completion and found by specific, Mass State Police and Canton Police like Berkey. You found this taillight in quadrants and got every fucking piece except for the one little round, the piece that was not found. That's impossible. It's impossible. All right, I'm moving. We're shaking. We're moving. Now. Look at this, though. Oh, wait, when we get here, I want you to see, look at little heads. We're going to see little heads pop, right? Right there. This is where I think it's Jen who does, alert the police, because Karen is giving mouth to mouth and Kerry Roberts is doing chest compressions. Oh, take your time. Does he do drugs? Thank you, Stephen Saraf.
Okay, do you recognize any of the individuals up on that screen?
Yes.
If you could, with laser pointer, direct their attention. Who do you recognize and who do you recognize that?
Kerry Roberts, myself, Karen Reed.
I just wanted to give one compliment to like Canton Fire and Rescue, or, for how they responded, because they were called at 6:04 and they arrived on scene at 6:11. And you can see that behind this, that the ambulance was already like here as well. And that was 6:04, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh yeah. Like, so 7 minutes, 7 minutes. Yeah. That's pretty good.
Now, Ms. McCabe, if I could just take you back to when you arrived there. Communicated, Ms. Reed goes over to Mr. O'Keefe, Ms. Roberts. What is it that you were doing at that time?
I got out of the car and I came around, and for a second or two, I completely just froze. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And then Kerry and I made eye contact, and I called 911. And Kerry was asking me to go to the car and get, she was yelling to get towels or blankets or something out of the back of our car.
Is that why the back of the car is opened up in the video that we just saw in reference to Ms. Roberts' vehicle?
Yes.
Did she direct you sort of where to go within the vehicle to find the blankets or towels, whatever it was?
Yes.
Now, you called 911, you spoke to the operator and told them essentially where you were, correct?
Yes.
Now, as far as that initial, what you saw, that you froze and couldn't believe what you saw, can you describe to the jury what it was that you saw?
I saw Kerry wiping the snow off of John's face, and I could not believe that that was John laying there.
And how was John positioned, or how was his body positioned when you saw him?
He was just laying flat on his back.
And as far as the snow Ms. Roberts was wiping off his face, was there any other snow on his body at that time?
Yes.
If you know about how much?
There was enough that his body was covered in snow.
And could you tell at that point how far Mr. O'Keefe was from the roadway as far as Fairview Road was concerned?
I mean, I remember kind of a little ways in. I don't know exactly.
And so you make that call to 911, and what is sort of going on with respect to Ms. Roberts, the defendant, and Mr. O'Keefe while you're on that 911?
So I run the blankets over to Miss Roberts, and
Oh.
she's kind of lifts him up, put the blankets underneath him, and she's screaming at Miss Reed to get off.
Just a reminder, babes, I love you so much. Just from a medical professional standpoint, never ever. I guess that actually Kerry put the blankets under Officer John O'Keefe's like head where he was struck. The fatal strike, the blow, the 2.5-inch laceration to his right occiput of his cranium. And like you just don't move heads when you don't know what's happened, you know, but she didn't know. So I'm just saying, like, if you do come upon a scene, do CPR, try to do everything that you can, but you know, just maybe leave a head alone.
Off of Mr. O'Keefe, and they're kind of yelling back and forth. Karen's screaming, "Is he dead? Is he dead?" I at some point
That's
walked
true.
over towards the car, Kerry's car, to get away because they're so loud, and I was trying to be calm and get help there for John as fast as possible.
Yeah. Okay. That I call, I'm going to have to call a spade here. And the truth be told, that not one time did Jennifer McCabe say that a police officer, you know, was down. My friend, she said that a man was unresponsive in the snow. She said that he's a 46-year-old male. She does end up halfway through the initial 911 call, gave a name, but did not say he's a Boston police officer, and he's outside my brother-in-law Brian's house, who fucking also is a Boston cop, right?
Kerry starts yelling about doing CPR. She tells Karen to do mouth to mouth. Karen's yelling because as they start, blood starts coming out of John's mouth.
As far as the CPR, that's what you're talking about?
Yes.
So during this time, the defendant's yelling and you're on the phone with 911, correct?
Yes.
You're trying to back up or distance yourself a little bit so that you can hear what's going on with the 911 operator and they can hear you.
Yes.
Jen, you got post-nasal drip, girlfriend, okay? And I wish that you had a box of Kleenex, sweetheart, or you need to get some, like, I don't know, Allegra. You need to get a little something to clear up that nasal cavity. Thank you.
And after you complete that 911 call, what's going on with that?
I go over, and at that point, Kerry asks if I can take over doing the compressions.
And did you do that?
Jackson's nickel. No, Kerry works as, she's administrative. She does or did something for a company for several, like 20 years. She's been at her company. She's not a nurse. Sarah Levinson was a nurse.
I did, yes.
And at some point after you call 911, do either police or fire or someone responds and arrives on scene, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you know about how much time it was in between when you hung up with 911 and when the first responders started to arrive?
From when I hung up, maybe a few minutes. I'm not exactly sure.
And do you recall whether or not it was police or fire who showed up first?
Police.
And Is that the officer that was in that video or that cruiser that was just up on the screen as last?
I didn't see the officer, in the video, but I know it was Officer Sarif was the first officer to arrive.
So then, after the officer arrives, what happened?
Also, it's bullshit. I wanted to say, because Jen says, "Oh, I went over and I started doing chest compressions and I helped." Well, that's not what Kerry says. That's not what the talker Kerry says. You know what she said? She said that you brought the blankets from the car and that you called 911 and that she did the compressions the entire time and she was incredibly focused on that. And I'm I mean, I can't imagine trying to do that many rounds of compressions myself because it's so taxing. It's very taxing on a person. You are like, because we do it to, staying alive, or actually there's a new version of Pink Pony Club. I'm going to keep, you got it to the beat. And I love that. But if you are doing it to the correct beats, you're sweating when it's done.
He was trying to figure out what had happened. Karen just ran around screaming, my name, Kerry's name. Is he dead? Is he dead? It was on repeat. Could I have hit him? Did I hit him?
Well, let's hear what Kerry actually says about that. Come on, Kat.
And so what, if any, conversation did you have with the defendant or Ms. McCabe in reference to what you were seeing through the back of the ambulance?
I said, they're working on him. They're working on him. And at one point, Karen grabbed the front of my jacket and screamed in my face and said, are they working on him? Is he alive? And I said, they're working on him. They're working on him. They wouldn't be working on him if he was dead. And then she had us hold hands and pray. And then at some point, she had blood on her hands and she told us she had her period. So I think she was just in a state of shock, maybe.
She was in a state of shock. You are correct. And I don't know what this video is, so I'm going to try to watch it. Tell us more, Kerry.
Initially, when you left, who, if anyone, left with you?
I left with Karen Reed.
And as you're leaving...
Nope, just kidding. That's not the one. Okay, well then what? Oh, okay. We'll keep going with Jen. We have other Kerry videos to put in, and then Proctor and the Canton PD audit, and then we're done.
Our officers started to arrive. The EMTs, they began to work on him.
And while he's still, by him, you mean Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes.
And Mr. O'Keefe's still on the ground, and they're working on him there.
No, I just saw a bunch of them around Mr. O'Keefe.
And then what happened then?
More officers began to arrive. Miss Reed just continued to run around screaming. As more officers and EMT arrived, they asked what happened. One EMT asked, one EMT had asked, his name, his age, things like that. If she knew what happened, Miss Reed stated that she hit him.
That is inaccurate too. And I just want to put that home for all of us, babes, is that I do not believe was said. You're not going to tell me it was said, and I will never believe it ever, okay? Karen Reed did not have an opportunity, as evidenced by the dash cam video, that she never spoke to a paramedic while they were putting Officer John O'Keefe into the ambulance. It didn't occur. So I don't know where this came from or where other people believed that they heard it, but it does not align with video evidence, and we have very minimal in this case. So we need to watch what we do have. And that we never heard Karen say, I hit him. Could I have hit him? Did I hit him? On the dash cam on the dash cam video. You hear her say, Kerry. You hear her say, Jen. You see her absolutely hysterical, in shock, traumatized. But you do not hear that. And again, it was not memorialized in any Canton police officer and or paramedics until there's a question of, I hope I didn't hit him at 9:00 when Jen McCabe calls Mike Lank on his personal cell phone, and him and Gallagher go back to the house. It was incorrectly reported in the Canton PD audit that Jen called the Canton Police Department because she asked Julie when she came to drop off baby Brian's birthday donuts. She had to ask for his phone number. And you know what you don't need to ask anyone for? Your police. You can Google it, Jen. We know you Google.
Besides running around saying, I hit him, did I hit him? Could I have done this? Is he dead? Is he dead? At one point, one of the police officers put Miss Reed in the back of a cruiser, and he asked for myself to go over with her, and Carrie came over with us as well.
I'd like to just take you back to when the paramedic is asking for information, biographical information, things like that. You indicated that the defendant said, I hit him, is that correct?
Yes.
No.
Something that she said once or more than once?
3 times. I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
Now, before
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
you had made reference to statements she made with sort of qualifiers or questions as far as could I have hit him or did I hit him? Is that what she said at that time when she was speaking to the paramedic?
No, she was earlier. It was could I, did I? When she spoke to the paramedic, it was crystal clear. I hit him.
Now, one of the officers takes her over to the back of a cruiser, is that right?
Yes.
You were over in that area as
Oh.
well.
Yes.
Who, if anyone else, was over in that area?
Miss Roberts.
Wrong. Meh. Wrong answer. Okay. Sorry, Jen. Sorry, Jen. That's not actually what happened, because the other night we went over Sergeant Good's testimony. Okay. And he says that he was over at the car. Okay. He put Karen in the back. What? To warm her up. Okay. And then he stayed there the entire time. Also interesting, she mentions that Kerry was over there and in the back of the cruiser when Kerry just told us in the other clip I just played that she asked them to pray, but Kerry Roberts never said that Karen Reed allegedly asked her to make these Google searches in the early morning after the response to 34 Fairview by the paramedics. Let's hear Jen's story.
And while you were over in that area, what was going on?
We were in the back of the police cruiser. Karen was sitting in there. I kind of scooched myself in. Miss Roberts came over. Karen grabbed our hands. She asked us to pray. She looked at her hands and she had blood. She asked us if she could have gotten her period. We told her no, that was John's blood. Then she said, what if he's dead? Promise me you'll take care of the kids. Someone's going to take care of the kids. Then we prayed. Then at the end, they were moving John. And at that point, Karen told Kerry, go over, look, is he dead? Is he dead? Is he dead? Over and over. And Kerry said, I'll go over and check on him. And she was yelling, are they working on him? And then at that point, she grabbed my hands and she said, Google hypothermia, Google how long it takes to die in the cold. And so I had my phone out and it was cold and my hands were frozen and I have MS, and I took my phone out while she was screaming and shaking my arm, and I attempted to Google how long does it take to die in the cold.
Oh, okay. Just a quick reminder, babes, that MS, Karen has MS too. Okay. I have nothing to say. God bless you. I hope that you are, live a long and healthy, happy life, and that you are able to have treatment that is effective. However, MS does not prevent you from typing. Okay. But now let's just go back real quick because we're in the same spot of the 30-second clip of what exactly this exact same testimony of the exact same moment as it's remembered by Kerry Roberts. One more time.
And so what, if any, conversation did you have with the defendant and/or Ms. McCabe in reference to what you were seeing through the back of the ambulance?
I said, they're working on him. They're working on him. And at one point, Karen grabbed the front of my jacket and screamed in my face and said, are they working on him? Is he alive? And I said, they're working on him. They're working on him. They wouldn't be working on him if he was dead. And then she had us hold hands and pray. And then at some point, she had blood on her hands, and she told us she had her period. So I think she was just in a state of shock, maybe.
Oh, no Google search. And Good didn't say anything about the request for a Google search either. Huh. If there was two people that were there, the police officer that brought Karen over and Kerry Roberts, and Kerry didn't think, oh yeah, and then Karen said, can you Google how long does it take to die in the snow? I mean, in the cold? How long to die in cold? I don't buy it. I don't care.
And when you conducted that search, that was at the defendant's request on scene sometime after 6 a.m. on that day, correct?
Yes.
You recall whether or not that came up as far as you're searching Google? Is it something that you typed once or more than once? If you
I believe I did it multiple times because as I was typing it, I don't know what else was coming up. She was screaming. My hands were shaking.
And do you recall anything as far as what the search results were, or did you click on anything, or did you get an answer to the question the defendant had posed to you?
I don't even think I got an answer because as I kept Googling and she kept yelling, and then they were moving John. And the next thing I knew, we were kind of moving because she wanted to see if they were working on him.
And so you were moving along with the defendant over towards where Mr. O'Keefe had gone to the back of the ambulance?
Yes, we kind of just moved to see what was going on.
When you moved over, what did you see then?
They were just putting him in the back of the ambulance.
Now, after Mr. O'Keefe was put into the back of the ambulance,
Oh my gosh.
where did you go then?
Oh my
At
gosh.
that point, different police officers, I believe, were arriving and they were asking questions.
Okay, babes. I'm so sorry. I just found something and this is insane. Can I pull it up? Oh my gosh, I have to pull it up. Okay, I can't pull it up. Oh, maybe I can. I'm sorry. In the Canton Police Department audit, it says at 6:14 a.m., Ms. Reed and Ms. McCabe were placed in the back seat of patrol car 682. When were the Google searches made, babes? At 6:23 and at 6:24 a.m. Oh. According to officers, and then it says at 6:24 a.m. This is from the Canton PD audit. Canton PD Detective Sergeant Lank arrives at the scene and took command. Sergeant Lank noted that Ms. Reed was hysterical and attempts to obtain a statement from her and was unsuccessful. So she wasn't talking to Jen McCabe at 6:24. She was talking to Sergeant Lank. Huh. And then according to the officers on scene, Ms. Reed mentioned that she did not remember being at 34 Fairview Road. Holy shit. This Canton PD audit may be very, very useful in retrial, but there's a risk because do they want to introduce it all? Probably not, but holy shit. They have this timeline down to the minute as evidenced by the dash cam the dash cam evidence from cruiser 682. I mean, not 682, Seraph's cruiser. And they have all of this, which does not align with 623 and 624 having any sort of Google search asked of by the defendant.
about what happened.
And did you speak to those officers?
I did, yes.
And at that point, did you know what happened?
No, to be honest, it was like I was there, but everything was just going on, and I was completely just in a state of shock and disbelief.
And that sort of period there, how long did that go on?
So I talked to a few officers. We tried to just give them, you know, he didn't come home. We went out looking for him, kind of just the brief overview. And then one of the police officers asked me to go into the house.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Additionally, babes, at approximately 6:24, Canton Fire and Rescue transported Mr. O'Keefe to Good Samaritan Hospital in Brockton at 6:24. Oh. Oh my. That's a problem.
And to wake up my sister and my brother-in-law.
And at some point while you were outside,
I have to email this to
did you
me.
contact your sister and your brother-in-law?
I believe I called my sister, Nicole.
And when was that in relation to everything as far as medically that was going on with Mr. O'Keefe and all?
I think I might have called her right after I got off with 911 possibly. And then, you know, she didn't answer. And that's when I was walking over, I believe, to John.
And she didn't answer the call when you called her initially?
No,
And you recall calling either your sister Nicole or your brother-in-law Brian Albert prior to going into the house?
I don't recall. I know I did call Nicole at one point. I'm not sure if I called Brian or not.
Regardless of if you called or you didn't call, do you recall having any sort of phone conversation with either Nicole or Brian Albert before you went in the house?
No,
So you at least called your sister Nicole, she didn't answer, and then one of the officers directed you to wake them up.
yes,
And when you went up to the house at 34 Fairview, how did you get in?
the front door.
And the front door was unlocked?
Yes,
Is that typical from your experience at that residence?
yes.
And so you went to the house, and where did you go?
I went up the stairs to their bedroom.
And the bedroom door, when you arrived there, was it open or closed or something?
Closed.
And you opened it?
Yes.
And when you opened it, who, if anyone, did you see in the room, and what were they doing?
I saw my sister and Brian, and they were both asleep.
Oh.
And you familiar with?
Well, wait a minute. That doesn't make sense either. Because the light went on as soon as that's when they went into the house, was after the light went on per Good. Sean Good says, as soon as the ambulance pulled away that was transporting Officer John O'Keefe, the lights went on at 34 Fairview. So were they sleeping or what happened? Because who the fuck turned the light on, Jen?
With a dog that they have?
Yes.
What was the dog's name?
Chloe?
Was Chloe in
Oh.
the bedroom as well at that time?
I don't recall.
You come in, they're both sleeping, and what happened then?
I go over to the bed and I'm calling out their names.
And how long were you calling out their names before you got any kind of response?
Brian responded first and he was very, you know, startled and looked at me like, what is going on? Nicole took a little, and you know, I think it took Nicole a little bit longer than Brian to wake up.
Of course it would, Jen. She was cleaning. What do you do when you come home from a bar? You clean.
And what is it that you're telling them as you're coming into the room and they're waking up?
I'm telling them that we just found John out front, and I could have possibly said John has died. We just found John out front. They were very confused at one point, and I think Brian was like, "Who's John?"
Now, okay. I want to remind us all that Commonwealth supporters will tell us that Karen Reed is the devil. Because why? She texted Higgins at 11 in the morning and said, John's died, okay? Or John's dead or something along those lines. But Jennifer McCabe went upstairs in her sister's house and her brother-in-law and said that we just found John's dead. She said on the 911 call, I think he's passed away. And also, you're going to tell me that Brian Albert said John who? Oh, He said, John who? But then immediately got up, got downstairs, and then called Brian Higgins. And Higgins was over at your house, not at your house, pardon me, over at 34 Fairview at 7 o'clock in the morning after he left at whatever time, went back to Canton Police Department to go move his government issued vehicles while he was cocked. Then he went home and he played non-consensual butt dialing with you, okay? And his ass was back at your home just 4 hours later. Wow. But you didn't know who even John was. Okay.
I mean, they just woken up and they had no idea what I was talking about.
Now, as far as when they're first waking up and you're explaining to them, how would you describe sort of their demeanor as you're talking?
They were both shocked. I think they thought, like, why?
Not what you think they want.
Okay.
But what I'm asking them is just sort of when you observe them, how would you describe your physical observations of what they look like, their demeanor in that respect?
Shocked, confused, not understanding.
Strike the last one.
Now, as far as this conversation that you're having with your sister and your brother-in-law in their bedroom, how long was that going on?
A few minutes at least.
And then following that, where did you go?
They got up, got dressed, and then we walked down the stairs.
And when you got to the bottom of the stairs, what, if anything, did you see when you got?
There was a police officer at the
Ooh, that's weird. You stayed upstairs while your sister and brother were getting dressed. Ew. Awkward.
bottom of the stairs.
I'm just joking, but like really, like I'm sure that they have a bathroom or a master bath, but like maybe walk back down, see what's going on, see if you can be helpful, see if you can do anything, but you're just like discussing whatever with them for a few minutes upstairs in their room. Oh.
And do you know who that police officer is?
Yes, Officer Lank.
At that time, did you know who that?
Oh, Lanka.
I did, yes.
How did you know?
He's from Canton. He was, I don't know, 5 years older than me. I knew him kind of growing up, who he was, and met him through the years.
You're aware of who he was?
Yes.
And were there any other officers with him initially?
No.
Now, before you go into the house, do you know where?
Also, just a reminder that Lank allegedly, per the Canton Police Department audit, didn't need to recuse himself, right? Because, you know, you don't need to recuse yourself allegedly per this audit. Excuse me, guys. And like he did everything by the book, except you were always supposed to have another officer with you. There should be 2 at all times, especially when no one's fucking recording anything in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, in Canton and in Norfolk County. So the police officers, Good and Lank, said that they went in together. But Jen and Coco, aka Nicole Albert, said that Lank was the one who came in. And we know that Lank is very good friends with Chris Albert. Canton Select board member, Chris Albert.
Or Ms. Roberts and the defendant were, or what they were doing when you went to the house?
I believe they put Karen in a car, and
Only if you know. Only if you.
Okay.
If you know, do you know?
Karen was in a car. Carrie was walking all around.
Okay, let's hear what actually happened. Because Commonwealth supporters will say that Bill Reed, Mr. Reed, basically requested that Karen be sent to Good Samaritan Hospital to prevent her from getting arrested and facing consequences of what happened on the morning of January 29th, 2022. Except, Commonwealth supporters, I want you to put your fucking thinking caps on, okay? Pull your heads directly out of your asses and recognize the following. 1, Karen Reed's blood alcohol level, her BAC, would have never been taken if she hadn't had to go to the hospital. And she went to the hospital because she dropped her basket. She was so emotionally distraught and so fucked up over the scene that she came upon of seeing her boyfriend, someone she loves, who she tried to save, seeing him in that condition. And even Jen she did say in her testimony that we just heard that if something happened to John, I need you to take care of the kids. She was so worried about his children, his niece and nephew. That was the first thing on her mind. Let's hear what Kerry has to say about it. That is 2:21.
Initially, when you left, who, if anyone, left with you?
I left with Karen Reed.
And as you're leaving in your car, you're driving, is that correct?
Yes.
Where's Miss Reed in the car at that point?
Say it again.
Where was Miss Reed in your car at that point?
In the passenger seat.
And as you were leaving, what, if anything, were the two of you doing or talking about, or what was going on when you left that first time?
As we were leaving, she was saying to me, if anything happens to John, I'm going to kill myself. You need to take care of these kids.
And how did you respond to that?
He's not going to die. No one's doing anything of that nature. Or something of that nature, I said.
And as far as you're driving away, Chapman, and you're facing towards Cedar Crest, is that right?
Yes.
And so when you left, are you following in that sort of same direction towards Cedar Crest?
I took a right onto Cedar Crest.
And then where did you go from there?
And then I got to Dedham Street, and I went to take a right. And then Officer Good let me go to pick up the O'Keefes to take them. I had to give him my phone number so that he could get in touch with me if he needed to. So he did call, and he said, do you have Miss Reed with you? And I said, yes. And he said, please bring her back. Her parents have called in a suicide. They said she's saying she's suicidal, so they want her to be sectioned.
And so coming back to that in a moment, but before you had left the scene, you hadn't talked to any police officers or anything at that time, correct?
No, other than my name and phone number, but no.
So you gave them your information and then said, I have to go pick up you.
Yes.
So you get that call from Officer Good, and then you come back to the house, is that right?
Yes.
And during any of that time, you recall the defendants, I know you had mentioned she spoke to Erin O'Keefe. Was there anybody else that the defendant spoke to or talked to while you were with her in the car?
She spoke to her mother. And then I ended up taking the phone and speaking to her mother, and I gave her my phone number, and I said, I'm going to go to the hospital. She said, please make sure she does not have her purse. She has medication in her purse I don't want her to take.
And then when you arrived back at the scene, what happened then?
She just got out of the car and walked to the ambulance.
And who, if anyone, did she walk, and by she, you mean the defendant?
I'm sorry, yes.
And who, if anyone, did the defendant walk from your car to the ambulance with?
She just walked, I think she just walked by herself. I had her phone because I had been talking to her mother. So then one of the first responders came over and said, do you have her phone? And I said, yes. Her mother said, make sure she does not have her purse.
And then following that conversation with one of the first responders, where did you go from there?
I went to go pick up the O'Keefes.
Oh, M and Life's a Bait. I just wanted to tell you, this is the trial channel. The trial channel. Incredible. Okay. Great resource for us. So they have everything, every single witness's testimony from Commonwealth v. Karen Reed 1.0. So I just wanted to give you that tidbit. Shout out to the trial channel. So that is what really happened, right? Karen was released from the scene. She was going home. They said, babe, if we need anything from you, we're going to get it. We'll get it from you. And Kerry confirms that she made statements, unfortunately, suicidal ideation. And her father, Bill, ends up calling and asking for her to be, taken to the hospital for evaluation. The Canton police did fill out they initiated a Section 12, and she was transported to Good Samaritan. And there was a concern for her safety that had nothing to do with a cover-up or of any guilt. That, in fact, hindsight being 2020, I bet that there would be, oh my gosh, my child would have never had to endure at least the alcohol part of this. That couldn't have been used against her in a court of law had she not gone for her mental health evaluation. A incidental finding of a BAC, which was not even a BAC. It was not taken the way we typically do that. It was just an ethanol level. It was an incidental finding, had nothing to do with her treatment, and it is still used against her. And ironically, that is the one charge that the jurors in 1.0 were stuck on. was that frickin' manslaughter under the influence of liquor. So fuck off. Okay, now let's get into the last clip of Kerry Roberts, and then we are going to tuck and roll into 2 clips of Michael Proctor because you guys are going to absolutely teleport. Oh, which one is it now? What am I doing? Oh, 219, 219.
Did you have occasion to speak to any other troopers or members of the state police at any point in time afterward?
I've only spoken to Michael Proctor one time. It was from Jen's house.
And when was that, if you know?
I don't know, maybe a couple days later, because Jen and I were re-going over what everything had happened. Mrs. O'Keefe had advised us to make a timeline because she said this could be a while. You guys aren't going to remember something years from now. So sit down, write down what you remember. And I, at that point, said, when she first called, she said he was dead. And Jen said, I don't think you've told them that. So Michael Proctor called, or she was on the phone with him, or I don't even know. And I said, could I speak to him? So I told him so that somebody had it documented.
So as far as Trooper Proctor was concerned, that phone conversation, is that the only contact that you have with Trooper Proctor?
Yes.
And if you recall, was it February 1st or so that you met with some troopers at Ms. McCabe's house?
State Trooper who?
At some point, did you meet with troopers at Ms. McCabe's house?
Yes.
And if you know, was that on or around a couple days later, like February 1st or so?
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. I can't be sure.
Were either of those troopers that you met at Ms. McCabe's house, were either of those troopers Trooper Proctor?
No.
And do you recall where within Ms. McCabe's house you spoke to them?
In the living room.
And beyond yourself and the troopers that you spoke to, was there anybody else in the room with you when you spoke to them?
No.
At some point, either then or subsequent to then, was there any request made by any trooper from the state police in regard to your cell phone?
To my cell phone, yes.
And do you recall if it was that date or a later date?
It was not that day. I think it was the next day. It was within the next 2 days. They wanted to clone my phone.
And did they advise you of anything or give you any form that you had to fill out and execute prior to doing that?
Yes, I had to fill out a form.
And as far as your phone was concerned, were there any restrictions or anything that you gave to them as far as what they could look at or what they could clone or what they could do with your phone?
No.
And as far as how sort of that process works, as far as a cell phone extraction or anything, do you know anything about that?
No.
And do you recall how long it was that you were without your phone at the time you handed it over to them to whenever you got it back?
Well, they took both of our phones at the same time, and we didn't get them back for like 7 or 8 hours.
And just to be clear, when you say both of our phones, you're
Jen.
who else's?
Jen's phone and my phone.
Oh, lovies. Lord, hear our prayers. And so then this gets me wondering, like, oh, okay, when you got asked to make the timeline, and let that stick out in your head, the timeline. And you weren't asked to make a timeline by Mass State Police. You were asked to make a timeline by Mrs. O'Keefe, who Paul has said in his interview with Christina Rex that Mrs. O'Keefe didn't need to speak to any troopers. She knew as soon as Karen Reed came to that house, before any taillight was found, before Karen Reed's vehicle and phone was seized on January 29th, 2022, she thought that Karen killed John. And so during this timeline of events and making the timeline per Kerry's report, here's what really happened. Let me remove me. Oh, oh, then I don't need to be here. All right, remove. Mm, I have I have a lot to say about that. I think that the statement that was made by Kerry Roberts to DeChico and Dunn on the 29th is 100% in alignment with the friggin' call to Canton Police Department that same day. That morning at 5:00, at 5:04, when she calls Canton PD and she says she's worried he didn't come home last night. Oh, they were at a blizzard party. And then remember, who's his tits? Good says, "Oh, I wasn't there. I was here." Oh, okay, great. No one is concerned. He probably is at someone else's house. He slept on a couch somewhere, or, you know, and that was it. That was what it was. But after, like Kerry just tells us, gives us all of the information we need after she was told to make a timeline because, quote, this was going to take a while. What was the persecution of Karen Reed? Because it's a prosecution, but it's been a persecution, in my opinion. Okay. So I teleported over that. Then, if we look, I wanted to show, oh, get out of here. All right. Bye, Jen. Bye, Jen. Then I wanted to bring up is it right here? Yes, it is. Okay, we're gonna go and look at this, guys. This is from the Canton Town audit, and this is something. It says that boobadoo, that's not the right one, Kim. Okay. On January 29th, 2022, Mass State Police executed a warrant for Ms. Reed's Lexus sport utility vehicle in Dighton, Mass, at Ms. Reed's parents' home. The audit team found Mass State Police requested Ms. Reed's vehicle be brought back to Canton PD. Huh. Chief Rafferty said that this request was granted because the Canton Police Department is near the Norfolk District Attorney's Office, and MSP did not have an adequate temperature-controlled storage facility close by. Mass State Police coordinated the Lexus SUV to be towed to the Canton PD garage and arrived at the Canton PD garage at approximately 5:35. It was 5:36, but okay, on January 29th, 2022. Oh. Babes, we have problems. Lovies, get together. I want you to know that what I'm going to show you next, a video in which I will provide from the testimony of Trooper Michael Proctor, is truly mind-blowing. And I want you to be prepared. It is going to tell you that this is awkward. That he was just put into this situation to be the case manager or the case manager on the whatever, but that all of the things that occurred on January 29th and the order of operations in which they happened couldn't have been accurate if you put together all the pieces of the other testimony that we have heard. It has all been an elaborate fucking ruse, if you ask me. All right. It is the one that is 126.
So essentially, a case officer is more of a facilitator. You kind of delegate out tasks, coordinate interviews. The case officer isn't the sole decision maker. I have supervisors. I have that we bounce ideas off of, I get feedback from. I also keep them updated. It's a collaborative effort in each investigation. We're a small office, so when a homicide comes in, everyone essentially drops what they're doing, and we all work on it together. So it's a collective effort to work on these cases, and essentially the case officer is just kind of the record keeper of all the reports that come in and video that comes in. But when it comes down to decision-making time, it's a group effort.
Now, with reference to that collaborative effort that you were just discussing in this sort of debriefing meeting, so there were other troopers doing other things or other tasks throughout the course of the day of the 29th, correct? Yes. And so what was sort of the purpose of or not specifically what was discussed, but in general terms, what was discussed during the course of this debriefing?
The taillight piece is found at 34 Fairview Road by CERT. The one sneaker found at 34 Fairview Road. Interviews conducted, and then your Sergeant Mechanic and I also shared everything we had, kind of learned throughout the day as well.
And that debriefing meeting, if you know about how long approximately did that take in this case?
I can't recall, maybe half hour.
Okay. So I wanted that clip because remember he says that he's the keeper of the records and he is the one who asks for all the reports and all the video. Thank you, Michael Proctor, because you're no longer a trooper. But this is even more clutch your pearls and clench your butts.
That cell phone to preserve the information on.
Well, first thing we do is we put it in airplane mode, and then we give it to a cell phone expert in our office, Trooper Nicholas Carino, and he essentially tries to access the data in that phone once a search warrant is obtained.
Now, as far as putting that cell phone in what you described as airplane mode, what is the purpose of that?
It's to avoid if someone wants to go on a tablet or a laptop and access the information on their phone, and they can start deleting stuff off their iCloud. This prevents that.
So you secure the phone, you secure the vehicle on the tow truck, and then where did you and Sergeant Mechanic go from there?
We follow the tow truck from the address in Dighton to the Canton Police Department. We're secured in the Sallyport Bay.
And if you know approximately what time was it that you arrived at the Canton Police Department and secured the defendant's vehicle in the Sally Port Fence?
So we left Dighton around 4:16 p.m. and arrived in Canton at the police department at approximately 5:31 p.m.
And with reference to the Canton Police Department's Sally Port garage, why was the vehicle taken there?
I wasn't part of that decision, but it's my understanding that it was a heated facility. The other options were, I believe, the barracks in Milton, but that's not large enough to house a vehicle that size, and it's not heated.
And in regard to the heated, what was the sort of purpose or utility of storing it in a heated set?
Miss Reed's vehicle was covered with snow and ice at the time. It was transported from Dighton to Canton.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you just fucking say that you had obtained Karen's phone, you put it in the fucking Faraday bag, you put it onto airplane mode, and you guys trut, you leave at 4:14 and arrive at 5:31 you arrive back you arrive back to Canton Police Department at 5:31. Well, babes, we know because we've seen it. The Sally Port video shows Karen Reed's vehicle going into the Canton Police Department Sally Port into Bay 4 at freaking 5:36. What were you doing for 5 minutes? Listen, we know that a 22-second butt dial can you claim that nothing can happen if you're Higgins and Brian Albert. Yet Brian Higgins' attorney will say he can give his client all of the counsel he may need in 20 seconds or less. Okay? In 5 minutes that you had Karen Reed's vehicle on a tow, just chilling outside, not back inside the temperature controlled Sally Port? Bitch. Did I catch you? You had 5 extra minutes of fuckery. There is fuckery afoot, and I'm calling it right now. I have questions. I also have questions of how did Tully of Mass State Police fame tell you that he got the tail light and tell the CERT team, because he asked the CERT team to look for tail light, and this was before any of the CERT team had gotten to 34 Fairview. How did you know about tail light had you not gone yet to Dighton to get Karen Reed's vehicle? Oh. And then after that, the biggest what the fuck of that clip is why Karen Reed's vehicle was taken to Canton Police Department, why it was allowed, and why it was asked. Because I looked up Milton Barracks, okay? Because I look up Mass State Police Barracks, and they do have a garage. I don't know if it's heated, but I know for shit and sure that the Foxborough and the Framingham Mass State Police Barracks do have heated ones. So why was it brought back so many miles, 30 miles one way to Canton, to a police department that had recused themselves from the investigation at 6 o'clock in the morning? Oh, and then who ordered it? Who was the one who ordered or made the decision? Because Trooper Michael Proctor said I wasn't involved in that decision. Now that you're just civilian, Michael Proctor, I'd like to fucking know. Who gave the order? because you all fall in line. There is a tree. There is order of operations that you follow. So who made the call and when? I rest my case, Your Honor. Exactly. Look at our levy. Hank Luhu says Proctor made a point of saying that. Why? Babe, I don't freaking know. Can't tell you, but I want to know. We're going to know. There is so much to unpack here. And those clips took me far too long to do. But knowing that they had planned to take Karen's vehicle in the afternoon, 1:00 in the afternoon, babes. They had already called Barros in Dighton. They gave a professional courtesy and said to him, hey, bro, I need you. And they also called a tow. So it wasn't as if they did an impartial interview with Karen that resulted in them needing to make the call for a tow truck and to give that courtesy call to the town they were in. They were on their way and knew they were doing it. What the fuck? Who made the call? Who decided that Karen Reed's vehicle was to be sent to the Canton PD Sallyport? And what did they do with 5 minutes, 5 entire fucking minutes prior to that car being driven in to the Canton PD Sallyport that we see? We have questions. Oh, Amber KR, Kim, my lawyer was an RN and then she went back to school and passed the bar. Both her medical and legal knowledge makes her exceptional. Ever thought about law school? Amber KR, yes, babe, I have. And I think that maybe when my girls go to college, like if I could swing it, I would love to try because I love the law and I love being an advocate. I love, trying to do something for the good of our community. And, advocacy and being a nurse has been such a blessing. And I just have like a different kind of passion with the law now versus my trial coverage that I always have done. Like now I'm knee deep, babe. All right, listen. Auntie Bev wants to be knee deep in clams down the Cape. I'm knee deep in motions, okay? And not that motion in the ocean. I'm literally highlighting, I'm highlighting things and just really very enthralled in motions of lemonade, which never would I have ever done before. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, lawful law. Oh, and then Melanie Gore says, how any jury didn't see reasonable doubt is beyond me. Absolutely, babe. Here's the thing, is that it never had to be that you believed in a conspiracy or anything else that involved, 40 other people, et cetera, et cetera. But there was never an investigation done in this case, ever. Karen never had a fucking shot. When the defense says it was pin it on a girl, pin it on the girl, they really did that. They knew from jump. As soon as it went from Officer John O'Keefe was like in some sort of altercation or it looked like he had been beaten up or, no one thought at the scene that morning that it was related to a vehicle. Around 10:30, 11 a.m., I want to know what happened. When did the shift occur? That then you only pursued and were plotting. You plotted, bitch. You plotted and planned to seize her vehicle and to seize her phone, which, not to be a bitch, But I just do want to say Karen Reed deleted nothing from her phone. Not a Google search, not a phone call, nothing. I'm not saying that that makes you guilty in any way either. But in the totality, if you look at everything, Karen was never given a shot, and neither was Officer John O'Keefe. No one cared about Officer John O'Keefe's life enough, in my opinion, to do the right thing by the book and to investigate this to ensure whomever was the cause of Officer John O'Keefe's loss of life was going to be held responsible. No one thought that Karen would garner the support that she has. Not one soul. They thought they would absolutely be able to pin it on the girl and that she'd fold. That the girl would just roll over and try to take a plea. They didn't realize that they fucked with the wrong one. And now that they have us. And that we stand by and say, you know, I know all of you feel this way too. If Karen Reed, if I believed for a second that she was responsible for the death of Officer John O'Keefe, I would not support her. I would not at all be interested in backing up or thinking to myself, I would like to promote her and say that, like, get the word out here that this is wrong, what is happening. It is also wrong that Officer John O'Keefe was not treated with the respect and the reverence that he deserved. He was a good man. And he deserved better. And now we deserve better. And I truly believe that Officer John O'Keefe is helping from heaven. And that his life will impact laws moving forward. And I pray for his justice, and I pray for his family, and I pray for the Reeds as well. All right, babes. I love everything about your face. We've been together far too long. I had to talk about this with us today. But I wish you the best rest of your Sunday. Don't get the Sunday scaries. It's going to be fine. And have a good week at work, and I'll see you soon. I love your face. Bye.